Hi, it's Linzee Ryder, and I can't wait to see you in Exotica. You're watching the John the Ninja Show. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing today? It's John the Ninja live in the dojo, aka the Dojo. I gotta shout out to 8 Mile. That's why I'm wearing my Eminem great shirt. I gotta put it out there. But the person I'm with, she's an entrepreneur. She's a model. She's a model in a couple of different ways, but that's not the point. She's a model, a businesswoman, a smart woman, and she's gotten around in the world by doing something you wouldn't expect from somebody as shy as she is. She has done marketing. Now, she loves all seasons. She loves gardening. She loves the Lions. Shout out to Michigan. But her passion is dancing and enjoying life and talking to others. And part of that happens to be her work in adult entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Linzee Ryder. The woman here is one of the best girls in the industry. In 2019, after 10 years or so dancing at strip clubs all across the United States, she finally made this jump to mainstream pornography. And with that, she had a multitude of success, not only working with a lot of the giants companies such as Naughty America, Jules Jordan, Brazzers, of course, but she's also been nominated 5 times at the AVNs and won Hottest MILF and, of course, Magnificent Breasts at the awards show. So she has a couple of dates coming up. Exotica, New Jersey, that's my home state, so we got to talk about that. But October 24th, she's going to be at the Collector's booth at 774. So here to talk about her career and a couple of other things, ladies and gentlemen, I digress and I allow and am pleased and grateful and most of all very, very graciously thankful that she was able to come on tonight. Mademoiselle Linzee Ryder, how are you? So, Mademoiselle, it is fantastic to see you today. How are you feeling? Because I know the last time we were talking, you had COVID, you were recovering from that, and I just found it interesting that now that you're moving away from the adult entertainment space as far as the mainstream films, when you first got into it, it was around COVID, and you had COVID at that time, and now this time, you're leaving it, and you got COVID again. I just wanted to know, are you feeling better? Did you feel like it was kind of like a sign of saying like, okay, I'm making the right decision to leave now?
I feel much better, thank you. And it happens. It happens. So, especially at big events like the Exotic Dancer Expo that I was at and awards, that was a lot of hugging, handshaking, lots of people partying it up at the clubs and everything. So it happens, but I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Indeed, indeed. You stated something. You said you do everything in fives. Life is fleeting, and you've always had this rule of do something for 5 years and move on to the next thing. And I think that's been part of how you've been able to be so successful. I wanted to know when you first had that concept come to mind, when that was the first time you thought of it, or if somebody presented it to you and you said, you know what, that's a pretty good idea.
So I think it's more about like in 5 years time, see where you're at, and if you want to make a change, or if you want to, because everybody's always like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I've heard it somewhere. I don't remember where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere and it really like resonated with me. So I just like to like every so often, every 5 years, reevaluate where I'm at and what I want to be doing. And it was always a goal of mine to feature dance. So I wanted to give myself the 5 years and then see where I'm at. So I did that.
I know you grew up in a conservative family. It was a town outside of Detroit, Michigan, and a lot of the stories I hear, I was thinking like maybe you had a pastor's kid situation going on because a lot of the students, a lot of the friends I grew up with in a conservative environment, there was just this want when there's nothing else to do, you kind of find yourself getting into trouble. I wanted to know if that's kind of how you felt growing up in that environment and if that kind of contributed to how free-spirited you've been because you do like to do outside things like you like the seasons, you like to go hiking and kayaking, you like to travel. So I was wondering if there was some contribution to that. What was it like growing up in a conservative environment for you?
Yeah, I mean I grew up in a small town, very small town. You could literally smell like when the wind blew a certain way, you could smell cows. Like that's how bad it was. So I was a pretty bored. Yeah, it was pretty boring growing up. out in the country like that. And I definitely did get into some trouble, as most teenagers do. And then I ended up getting into the adult side of things actually after I moved to Warren, with my partner at the time. We ended up breaking up, and I was out on 8 Mile, like your shirt, Eminem. I was on 8 Mile, and all the strip clubs are out there. So I was living with one of my friends. She was a dancer, and she was like, "Oh, you should try this out. You'll make a lot of money." And the rest is history. That's how it all started.
Wanted to know what the time frame was for some of that stuff because you do have your degree in liberal arts. So I was curious, were you going to school prior to and then moved to 8 Mile, or is it something just while you were there, you just figured like, you know what, I want to go back to school and try and do something as well while I'm dancing? Because it was a progression. You did start with the coat check and then the cocktail waitressing, and then as the interest grew and then the opportunities to make more grew, that's where you finally got to the stage.
Yeah. So I actually started college, which should have been a 2 year degree. I started in, I want to say 2000, I graduated 2004. No, 2000, 2004. Yeah. And so I would have done college around, I don't know, it was like early 2000s, right?
Mhm.
I took a bunch of time off, and then I went back to college. Like I only did it part-time. So I did like half of it back then, and then I ended up going back. Well, we split up, and I moved out and everything. A little time went past, and I got back into college probably like 20, like mid 2000s, 2015, 2016, something like that. And then I got my degree, and I transferred to CMU from there.
What were you studying? Because there's also rumor. I couldn't tell which one was the fact. We do know you worked in the law office, but there was
Yeah.
the two conflictings that you did just social media for the lawyer. But the one I think was more viable was that you were a paralegal or at least an assistant. So I was wondering if you could clear that up. Did the degree have any effect on you finding that job?
Yeah, no, I stumbled on that job. That was crazy. I did I get it through, I want to say, no, it couldn't have been Craigslist. It was around the time that I was on Craigslist though. But yeah, I found there was an ad that they were hiring for a law firm. It was entry level. You did have to have a degree, so I did use, I guess it was a liberal arts degree. Sorry, I didn't answer that question. I used my liberal arts degree. I mean, just like any degree, I think. And it was basically the place that I worked at, what the law firm was kind of like, you know how they call them like training hospitals or whatever, where like you're like learning on the job, or so it was kind of like that. Uh, I just got thrown into it, and you just learn as you go. And I was a legal assistant for 2 or 3 years at that office, and it was crazy. There was a lot of stories.
What was the main focus of that law firm? Because I have a lot of friends that do law, and I remember talking to a friend in Philadelphia about a case she had. And after talking to my friends and learning how the law works, I'm kind of sitting there like, what did we even talk about? I didn't say anything of substance that is remotely how the legal system works. So I always joke about that. But I was wondering, like, what law was it? Did you have an interest of trying to do law, but it just never panned out? I always fascinated when you're in an environment and you have kind of the key to the back room.
Like I said, I stumbled on it. I decided to apply for it. I had secretarial experience, so I had no interest in it or anything. I just like found this job, and I was like, oh, that pays well. Like, let me apply to it. But Oh, what was the question? I forget. Oh, what kind of law? It was personal injury was the main focus, but it was a what do they call? I'm trying to think of what the term is. Basically, where they handle like all kinds of stuff. There was medical malpractice, police brutality, personal injury, and then we would get workers' comp calls that I would refer out to the workers' comp attorney, and then we would take like different. So I would be answering phones and taking intakes, and we'd transfer them to like other attorneys if we didn't handle it in our firm. But ours was the majority was like traffic accidents.
Still, that's so cool that you got to do that.
Yeah.
Before we hop on to the feature dancing, I gotta ask because I know you're a big Foo Fighters fan. That means you said 2005, so you were part of the era. The hip hop was bumping. I know you had to have been liking Britney Spears. So I really did find it fun that you had a big crush on Dave Grohl. He seems like such a nice guy. I've been in the vicinity of him. I didn't get to say hello to him, but I have some stories from when the Foo Fighters came to Philly myself. I just wanted to know how you found them. Have you been able to reach out to try and meet him? What other artists that do you hold near and dear? I know you used to dance to Britney Spears. I know I already mentioned her, but there's a couple of others like Rage Against the Machine you used to dance to, and etc.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Dave Grohl. I just think that, or I used to think he's like so hot. But I got into that specific band and like rock music. I was more of like a pop fan. And then my boyfriend at the time, my high school boyfriend, he got me into all the rock, like Incubus, Rage Against the Machine, like you said, Radiohead, Foo Fighters, all that. So I got into all that because of the guy that I was dating. But I never tried. No, I never tried to meet. I don't try to meet uh, stars like that. I don't get in their like inbox or like like try to do anything. I'm just a big fan of the music. I really like that kind of music, but I like all kinds of music. Like I'm just a big music fan.
Yeah, I love my rock and roll and hip hop.
Yeah.
I saw the shirt. You know, when we hear stories of 8 Mile, when we hear stories of how things are in Michigan, Detroit, sometimes they're glamorized a little bit more negatively. And at times, sometimes they're spot on and it's that bad. I wanted to know what it was like for you when you moved out there. You're on your own with your friend now. And the strip clubs on 8 Mile are a little bit different than the ones you would see in the major market cities where they might be a little bit more spruced up. They might have I'm not saying clean as in like cleaner, but it just has a nicer aesthetic when you look at it versus some of the other places where it's the main attraction, the ladies are the real stars, and it might be a hole in the wall bar, which I'm not gonna lie, people, some of those places are pretty damn fun too. They're great. But I wanted to know what your experience was like. Was it a kind of like a new horizon of like, I'm excited, this is a new frontier, or was it kind of scary being on your own for the first time in that capacity?
I never had a bad experience down like especially downtown, but in the area that I lived in, it wasn't a good area. I mean, it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't great. I lived yeah, kind of I'm literally on 8 Mile. Um I never had any problems like coming home from work, even like all glammed up and stuff. Nobody ever tried to do anything. Nobody bothered me. Like I was pumping gas and just I'm fine. Like I think a lot of people exaggerate things, or well, I shouldn't say that because maybe I'm just lucky that I never ran into problems. But I did actually, now that I think about it, I did break down. My car broke down on the side of the expressway, and somebody came and grabbed they like grabbed the catalytic converter, took my they completely what's the word, scrapped my car basically. So that was messed up, but that was like the worst of it. But dancing out there, no, there's clubs that are like beautiful, just like you would think that you're in Vegas, like Flight Club in Inkster on 8 Mile, or I'm sorry, in Inkster on Michigan Ave, I think. That's a beautiful club. There's Legends where it's several floors and just an awesome club. Like, and then there's also hole in the wall bars. Like I worked at Silver Cricket. That was a total like regulars bar and just like a total dive, but it was so much fun. The big clubs that are fancy, I have a fun time there too, but it's definitely, I don't know, a totally different vibe at like the smaller, like divey hole in the wall places. So I like them both though.
Do you have a particular favorite that you just get always a good show out of? I know you mentioned the I think it's Girls Trip Club in Lincoln Park. I might be messing the name up, but you've mentioned that in interviews too. Is there any other particular places that you really love dancing? It's always a good turnout.
I'm trying to think what that was. Maybe it was Dream Girls.
Dream.
Um, yeah. No, I like that club because they have big rooms that you can like literally close the door and you have like your own pole in the room, and they also have like where you can see the on like a screen, you can like watch and see like what's going on downstairs while you're out there. It's like very private, if you know what I mean. So I really liked working there, but um again, Silver Cricket, I worked there for so long and it was a total dive, but I like it. I liked working there. That was my favorite.
One of my favorite stories you have is when you got in a fight with the twins. It's just one of those things. It's like this sounds a little too good to be true. How did this actually end up happening? So, and you've
Yeah.
expressed that they were upset that you were technically taking money from them, and the way you explained it reminded me of certain things, certain customs in professional wrestling, where even though it wasn't intentional, you just don't do that, and you have to own up for doing that. I was wondering, what were some of the other learning curves when you started dancing that you learned, like, okay, maybe I can't do this, or maybe I need to be aware of a customer showing me a little bit more attention because that would be disrespectful, or some just some of the dynamic of being cordial but still everybody making their money and playing fair.
Oh yeah. I was a dancing shot girl and that was like apparently a big no-no. Like you have to either choose like if you're dancing or if you're shot girling. But the club that I was working at, Toy Chess, they let me do both, and that caused like a whole uproar. So then they made me decide, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to go on stage or are you going to serve shots and dance? So that's how I end up dancing like full time.
So they set
But
you up. That's not fair. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah, it was crazy. I'm like, oh, whatever. But I get it now that I've been on the other side of it. I understand. At the time, I was like, well, who cares? But I can see because I didn't have to go on stage at all, and I can sit with customers, make money off them while selling shots and everything, and then also take them to the back and make money that way. Whereas they're only going on stage and working the room. Uh, I guess I can see why it would upset. Like me personally, I wouldn't care because I'm focused on myself, but I can see where it would be annoying to some people.
But that's something I also wouldn't have noticed either. Like, usually you're at a regular restaurant, you don't get that much time with the waitress or the waiter to have a conversation, maybe a 5 minute, 2 minute at the longest. So to see in that light is pretty interesting. You know, you said it, I still don't believe it at all that you're shy. And you've stated that when you're in that type of environment, you know, you kind of have to express yourself. You kind of come out of that shell. It kind of forces you to really not exaggerate, but to become yourself and exemplify the personality. I wanted to know, was that kind of the learning curve, the feature dancing that kind of got you to branch out? Because even now, you're still shy, you're still reserved, you still have a very calmness about you. But then when you perform, you gotta throw everything out there. You gotta be as fun and as energetic, and it's very hard for people. And I can see why to think like, oh, she's shy. Ain't no way, bro. Like she invited me to show up over like 3 cities over. Like, so what was the dynamic of you becoming comfortable outside of your shell?
I guess just doing it for so long, it just becomes second nature. Um, but I eased into it, like I said, starting with coat check to chef girl to dancing to porn to feature dancing. Like it's been like a gradual, like I don't think I can go up from here. I think this is it. But yeah, it was a gradual climb and you just get used to it.
For marketing, what I really did love about your story was the fact that you were able to amass over and over and over again. Your IG kept on getting deleted, and the fans have still, been climbing every time. I wanted to know where you learned to do marketing and how you were able to start manipulating it, because when you first started, that was when social media really was non-existent. MySpace was as good as it got, but usually it was just posting pictures, word of mouth. 2005 to 2010 was still very within that pocket of not too much social media as like we have for Instagram and TikTok and etc. So I wanted to know if there were any lessons, learning curves that you learned from back then that you apply today that still translates pretty well for the social media aspect of what we do now.
Yeah, when I was dancing, I was always advertising, which a lot of girls didn't do, but I was always advertising through social media, like come see me whenever I'd be working. And then I got onto, well, actually I started Model Mayhem before then, but with the modeling stuff, it was just kind of posting your photos all the time and tagging the photographers on Model Mayhem. Like it's just like to me, it's common sense. It's just like well, of course you're gonna advertise yourself. Um, Now though, it's super important. I seriously on my Minx account, I post like every hour because you can post once per hour on there on the feed and then like everybody on the site can see you. So I think that's really important for me to be consistently like posting on there. And I do it all myself. And then same with just all my sites. Like it's so much marketing, so much social media, so much like, hey, I'm here, like come chat with me and everything. So it's just constant, but I enjoy it and it definitely gets me the results I'm looking for. So
You also have an appreciation of money that I again, back to the professional wrestling, I keep on seeing it. It's like, it's not cutthroat, it's not money is everything, but it's very like, hey, this is my time. Time is precious. Time equals money. I wanted to know if that was something you had to develop because you're very intuitive of like, is this a good business decision? Is this good for business and my business of what entity I've made myself? As opposed to some of us who, first time we actually get a big payday, we don't know how to properly spend it or allocate those funds.
yeah, I had a sugar daddy. When you're talking about like when you get paid and how to allocate funds, like that just made me think of I had people in my life. I'll say that. I don't know what I can say here. Um, that gave me advice, financial advice, and that was one thing that I took away from that relationship is how important it is to save for retirement and to put away money in savings and in different investments. So I learned through other people that, um, but I grew up poor, like very poor. And when I was living on 8 Mile, like I was living in a trailer that was literally possibly, it was like right next to this little skeezy motel. And it's just like really, really bad conditions. And so I know what it is to be um, at the bottom, at your rock bottom. And I never want to be there again. So that's really important to me to just take care of myself and my responsibilities and make sure that I'm never in poverty again.
We definitely gotta forget the rule. We gotta have you reach out to Eminem. We definitely got a story here. If he can have the other ladies on, he could definitely have you in the next music video. Come on. If anything, you were perfect for 8 Mile, the movie itself. Come on.
Hell yeah.
So with that, I do have to jump over to the 90 Day Fiance fiasco that you were involved in. Everybody knows that same situation. Gino was a sugar daddy, used the website, which is nothing wrong with that. But I found it very interesting that even with all the controversy and the things that the other woman was saying, doing, and it just seemed like a lot of negativity. What I was taught and some of the lessons in my life have taught me is sometimes you just got to cut people off. Don't answer. It's just going to cause more trouble. But you were very kind and courteous to reach out to Gino even after you guys separated. And possibly it sounded like it wasn't the smoothest separation, but you were still kind and courteous enough to tell him, like, hey, she's doing this. I don't know what the situation is. Even after they split up, you guys still would get together, say hello, be cordial, and that's a very, very rare thing to be able to do nowadays, especially how toxic not just social media is, but society has become. Usually, if there's a falling out, it's safer to just go your separate ways and call it for the rest of life. So, what was it that you were still able to say, like, okay, this is wrong, Gino, watch yourself, and still hold yourself in high esteem of like, no, I got this, it'll be okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. He's actually the one that told me or that gave me that advice too, by the way.
Okay.
He was the one that he told me all about investments, had me open a Roth IRA and IRAs. Anyway, she I reached out to her to tell her that he sent me her photos, private photos, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so yeah, we split up long time ago, and he was still contacting me, sending, and it wasn't just her, it was like other females that he was taking out from the sugar daddy website that we met on, and sending me pictures of him out on dates, like trying to make me jealous is the only thing that I can assume that he was doing. And so when he sent me Jasmine stuff, I found her on Instagram. I sent her a message. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, you might want to know. Like, he said, and she like lashed out at me, which was crazy. And so I was mad at him for a while because he never set the record straight. He went along with this storyline that I sent her like the photos that he sent me to her job in Panama and got her fired. It was like a whole thing, and it was all fake. But because that never happened, I reached out to her to tell her to give her a heads up. But anyway, um, he just one day apologized for what happened, and he actually started posting about the fact that like I didn't do that, and obviously they're spoiler alert. I don't know if anybody even watches it, but if they do, like you'll already know anyway. It's not that they're not together anymore. So I was able to like talk to him, and yeah, we ended up hanging out, and that was fun. I don't really hold grudges against people, and I'm a pretty loyal person. So like, if you've been good to me, even people that have been good to me but then bad to me, I'll still like just because that's just how I am. I don't know. I don't know how else to be. So if somebody wants to like reach out to me, I'll hang out, I'll chat with them as long as they're not like, obviously I have boundaries that I stand up for myself if I need to, but I think just being a good person, forgiving, like that's just being how you should be. I don't know.
Mira, you're a sweetheart though, because I'm sitting here like, nah, you know what? I had the same conversation with my mom, and I was like, just stop talking to them. Don't help them. Let it go. And it turned into one of the craziest stories I got. But that's a testament to. I always tell people when they have a good spirit, they have a good way to handle things. I think it also is a testament to where you've come from because you've really kind of made it out. You did survive the snare, excuse me, of poverty and trying to make something of yourself because there's family members you've mentioned that
they weren't accepting of you and your job, and you said, I have to protect myself and my energy, so you just kind of disassociated, and those that were still there for you, still kept with them. So, but now we got to get to the nitty and gritty. We got to hop into the world of the fantastic adult films. And you had a lot of back and forth about it for a long time. You mentioned that a lot of people hit you up, a lot of shady figures, some were legit. You found websites that would accredit the agents that were talking, but it was Sandra OC Modeling that really sold you and made it seem like, okay, this is where I needed to be. I wanted to know your first impressions of her, because there's a couple of people, not just in the industry, but outside the industry, that I've spoken with that have mentioned her by name. And she has quite a really, really good reputation as far as being kind but straightforward. I wanted to know what it was like when you first talked to her.
I immediately liked her. I immediately was like, this is who I want to represent me. And actually, I ended up going with her over 101. I was supposed to meet with the guy from 101, and I won't get into what happened, but something happened. He couldn't make it. So we missed that opportunity. I had a phone call with Sandra and I was like, oh my God, she's awesome. Like, yes, sign me up. And I will never regret that because they did an amazing job. They got me really good bookings. And if there was ever a problem, she immediately was on it. And so is Anthony and Eric too. Shout out to them too. But yeah, she's just awesome. She's, like you said, she's kind. She's a very kind person, but she also knows how to, she won't put up with BS.
And I believe, if I'm correct, your first shoot was with Brazzers, with Karen Lee. What were your thoughts for that? Because even when you get to the point of accepting something you're going to do, for whatever reason you're afraid of it, whether it's adrenaline or as something as high stakes as putting yourself out there for the masses, there's always that moment you kind of jump over the bridge, jump over that hurdle, and then you get that comfortability of like, okay, I'm doing it, or oh, I did it, that was great. So what was your thoughts walking into set that day, considering that basically it was just the next progression in the adult industry for you?
I think at that point in my life, I didn't give a I didn't care what people thought. But actually, my first scene was for Mom POV, and then I did a scene. That one was like before I signed with Sandra, but my first production shoot
So,
was through Sandra OC.
so was the orgy before or after? Because Mom POV,
Wait,
then because I messed up for certain, but I remember
no,
Mom POV, then the orgy with La Siren and a couple of others, and then
okay,
I don't have my placement right for the Brazzer shoot, so I messed that up.
okay. So Mom POV, then I shot for Pure Mature, and that was with Seth Gamble. I will never forget because he was my very first like production shoot, and I had to play a real estate agent, and at the time I knew nothing like about what a real estate agent would say, so they actually dubbed over my talking because I didn't know what to even say. But and
Which
then
is
after
crazy.
that was the Brazzers, and then it was the orgy.
Okay. Which is
Yeah,
crazy because you were working in that law office. I know they had to have had some HOA issues. There's no way.
we
Um,
referred the real estate out. Real estate law.
Now that you're in the world, you've really progressed quickly. Like 10 years feature dancing, and then I would think believe 35 is when you entered in 2019. And then you really kind of shot up, and then it was the AVNs already, and it was the awards. Did you feel like it was happening quickly because you already put the work in prior to, or did you feel like it was just a natural flow of life and it was just a good ride?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a good ride.
Unintended, I see.
'Cause I had a PR. I had PR agents. I actually he came to the one that I first had, XXX Star PR. He actually came up to the club that I was working at and like was like, "Hey, I saw that you joined. Like you were talking about it, and like I can do your PR for you." So I got into that through him just like coming up and reaching out. that way in person. And then yeah, I don't know if that did it. I don't know if it was just luck. I don't know. But after I lost my first Instagram account and my first Twitter account, I feel like it was like a struggle after that. And I was constantly like just trying, like I reached out to you, like, hey, let's do this. So I do a lot of trying to find things for myself to get my name out, because the more that you get your name out, the more you might attract, different fans that wouldn't normally hear of you. So I do a lot of that.
Like you said, you're very hands-on with reaching out. You shot with the biggest names and the biggest companies, but the two that are always pit against each other, maybe not in the world of adult films, but in the world for civilians, as we're called, it's always Brazzers versus Naughty America. And I was curious to know the difference in your experience between showing up to one set and then showing up to the other, if there's little nuances, because they're the ones that they're not doing the old vivid style movie feature 2 hours etc., but they're making it a little bit more tasteful as far as the lighting, and they put more work into the scenery and the makeup etc., when other sites their niche is more so realistic, fast paced, not as glamorous as they make those scenes. So what were the differences that you recognized and some of the things you really appreciated about both brands?
I hate when people in the industry call people that are outside of the industry civilians. It's so annoying to me because I'm like, we are not at war. Like, why? But anyway, I just had to get that out. Um, Brazzers has more people on set, and they actually have the makeup artist stay the entire time. The makeup artists, hairstylists, they're there to like just make sure that you look your best the entire day, like the entire shoot. And uh it's a fun time, as it is with both. But I don't know, I guess maybe it's because I always shot with Kieran Lee. Well, I have three browser scenes. Two are with Kieran Lee and one is with Alexis Fox. And I mean, both Kieran and Alexis are hilarious and just like fun people. And so like I'm all nervous and everything, like super nervous. And they just make it fun and you like forget that you're even nervous. So that's awesome. But Naughty America, I mean, they do a great job, like you said, with lighting and like making you look amazing. They put a lot of work into it, and both have like funny storylines that are fun to act out. But yeah, I would say they're definitely similar. It's just that there's just more people on setup for browsers.
There was a interesting conversation you had. I can't remember the podcast name, but the lady was hilarious. But it was a very straightforward question about the ethics in pornography. Some people think it's immoral. Some people still vilify it. And you said that in your experience, porn was very ethical, especially with the way they do things now. You came in at a time where before the shoot, you would have the sit down, you would have the agreements, you would have the paperwork for tests, you would go over the no list of please do this, please do not do that. And it's always been a safe environment for you. I was curious, did you ever have a moment that you had to check somebody, put somebody in place, or stop for whatever reason a situation that was going on? Because you also have been in those situations where you had to put your foot down and say like no more. I just didn't know if anything in the adult film industry happened to that extent.
I don't remember anything right now, at least, on set, but there's all the content stuff and a lot of, well, not a lot, but it's definitely gotten awkward where it's kind of like some of the talents like to use it as like it's a date, and it's not a date, it's a shoot, and it's like, let's shoot this and be done. Or I don't know, but that's like the main thing. Like I really didn't again, I don't know what it is with me. Like, I don't know if it's just like luck or what, but I've, thank goodness, had pretty great experiences.
Was that a learning curve for you as well? It is kind of fascinating to see how some people genuinely learn how to remove the sex from the emotion, where like the camera's on, you can have both, but then as soon as the camera's off, Manuel is pretty well versed that, as soon as it's over, it's like it's done. And
Mhm.
I'm more used to the ladies being better at that than the guys in certain situations where the guy catches feelings and the girl's kind of like, you're overthinking it, sir. So was that a learning curve? What else did you learn about yourself sexually? Because we do know you have a love for giving head, which is fine. But there's also other things you learn about yourself, not just sexually, spiritually.
I think the biggest thing that I learned is just acceptance of other people and um, not even really, because I've always been I guess it's more, I'm not worried about other people accepting me and like my kinks or like my, you know, because I've just, the big takeaway that I've gotten from like being in the industry, especially with doing content, is that there is there's something for everyone. Like you can't do wrong. Like I'm trying to think of like an example right now. Just things that I would not think are sexy. People are like into, and then maybe things that I think are hot, people are like, what the fuck? I mean, I did a video with someone on my Minx the other day. They have been asking me over and over about doing a video, and I'm really busy all the time, so it's hard for me to find time and like not only find time but also have time to like get myself my hair and makeup and all that and look good and be comfortable with it. But I was finally like, you know what, this guy's gonna think that I'm avoiding him and like this is on purpose, so I'm just gonna, I had no makeup on. I think I looked gross, but he loved it. And I was just like, what the hell? But yeah, just, you know, just be yourself. I mean, somebody's going to find it sexy, and just be accepting of what you are into and be forthcoming about that. Talk about it. Like, yeah, I think it's important.
Which I'm inclined with him. I like no makeup.
Yeah.
That rocks better to me. But when you mentioned like things that people have different kinks, one kink that you've also been known for is the foot fetish. And being that that's such a unique niche, it's not just the idea of like you using your feet in a particular way. Sometimes it's more of the guy maybe not even being submissive, but just rubbing your feet, just making sure you're comfortable. There's different avenues to it. But considering that you have done modeling, you've done it, I wouldn't say amateur, I would say you've done it more professional as well. I wanted to know if you ever branched out into trying to do foot modeling, like modeling for new shoes, for bigger brands, for more of the affluent brands out there.
Well, first off, you haven't seen me without makeup, but trust me, it's not good. But I love the whole foot fetish thing because I would do foot parties, which they throw all. I didn't, until I got into it more. I didn't even know this was a thing, but they had these basically at clubs where it's like it's this, you're like, you're, instead of getting lap dances, you're getting foot sessions, and you get like whatever, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever they want. And they want to just rub your feet and like kiss on your toes and suck your toes and stuff. And it feels amazing. And I'm like, what? You're going to pay me for this? Hell yeah. So I love that fetish. And it's actually the number, I read it somewhere that that's like the number one fetish out there is foot. I don't understand it. I don't understand why, but I mean, I enjoy participating in it.
You know, it's a payday for nothing. You sit back, you
Yeah.
relax, and they take care of you.
Yeah.
It's a free massage without having to do anything. They pay you in reverse. So that's what
Oh,
I was thinking. I wanted to know if that was what the new avenue is since you're leaving the adult film entertainment world. I didn't know if that was part of it. Maybe you found a different way to model in the mainstream.
yeah, my feet aren't that pretty. Like I honestly don't understand why how I mean how people like them, but they do some reason. But I'm definitely not a professional foot model, no. But I'm instead of doing shoots for companies, um, I just do shoots and for myself. And when I can, I do. I mean, to sell myself. And then I do video chats, texting, all that through Minx and other platforms. I like interact with my fans. That's the main thing. That and featuring. So that's what I've been doing.
And your fans are another different fan base. A lot of the community in the States, I don't know how the rest of the world is. I know the world is a little bit more open. They've had, I think in Italy, they had a president, or at least a really high politician that used to do adult movies as well. So around the world, it's a little bit more open and accepting. But here in the States, there's still this taboo around it. There's still this uncomfortability, mainly because people grew up in a religious situation and they're still uncomfortable to embrace it or acknowledge it. I understand it. I went to a Christian school. But what I did find hilarious on your social media is your fans tag you without a second guess. They don't think twice about what they even I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna take a picture with somebody I love and admire, I'm at least gonna write something meaningful like, hey, thank you so much for your time. Your fans go bro for bro, like, bro, I got to meet her, this and that. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't know if she would want to read that. And forget your family reading it. I don't know if she would want to read that after, man. They're just so happy. They're so energetic. You can see them light up. And there's always that one fan that says something that kind of catches you off guard and makes you feel happy. I don't like to draw too much on the negative, even though those are the better stories. But was there a fan, guy or girl, couple that you met and they were just so energetic, they was like, oh, I'm gonna remember you, or it was just they had a story that kind of was a little bit deeper than just like, hey, it's just a porn convention, man. It's not that deep. What the work I do is really not life saving, but just meeting you was kind of like, okay, that was something special.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love like just getting to meet people and they tell me that I've helped them through like tough times and stuff. I mean, I didn't know that I was doing that, but I'm like so glad that I did. I had a fan of mine actually come to AVN with drawings that he did, like actual drawings, not like AI drawings, because there's a lot of those. But he actually like drew pictures of me, and he does it with other stars too. But I thought that was so cool. Like that was, and it was actually really good too. So I was really flattered by that.
I think I can understand why people would have that approach because what you do is so intimate and people are desperate for that intimacy for whatever reason sometimes. Sometimes they're just, it's just the physical need of being human. Other times it's maybe they're going through something and that's kind of the get by that's safe for them. Because sometimes people go to alcohol, some people do this, some people do that. Who's been a safe space for you, not just in the adult entertainment industry, but your feature dancing or even prior to? Who's been someone that has been part of that collective that's been good for your energy, protected you, loves you, and has always had your back even when things were looking pretty crazy?
Yeah, that's a good point, what you said. I didn't think about it that way, but you're right. I can see that now. Um, my best friend, Tara, she's been through so much with me and she's always there for me. And I call her like joking around because I really am like very shy. Um, and like socially awkward. And when she's with me, I feel like so much more comfortable and more outgoing and everything. Like she brings out like the best in me. And so I call her my, what do they call the animals, the pets?
The spirit pets, the is it like a particular animal? Like the
You get them like you get them trained to like be your support.
support animals?
I call her my support animal because she really is like she just makes me like so comfortable and she's just so much fun. I always have a great time when we're together. So
Pretty
she's
fantastic.
my bestie. I love her so much.
One thing that was fantastic, it broke my heart, but it was a beautiful moment, and it was pretty cool to see is your boyfriend was speaking to you, and you do have a love for plastic surgery. And you asked him like, well, what's wrong with it? He's like, well, you're beautiful as you are. And it screamed in my head every argument a man has had with a woman that they genuinely love. No matter, we're damned if we do, we damned if we don't. We see the beauty, we appreciate the beauty, we are so happy with the beauty, and then for whatever reason, the mademoiselle thinks we're lying or there's something off, and then it's like it's not a big deal or whatever. So, I gotta give him credit, gotta raise my hand up to him. Cool as hell. You do love plastic surgery. Over $100,000 is the claim that you've spent on plastic surgery. I wanted to know when that started. Was it something that just happened gradually and then you liked how it worked out so you continue to do it, or has it been something that was more of like an addiction that just like it happened and you just have a compulsive need to attain the look you want?
I might have an addiction. I just like to improve myself. And it all started when I was with Gino. It's Gino's fault. No, I'm just kidding. He actually took me to get my surgery. He like took care of me after that was 2014. And that was my first boob job. I've had them done 3 times. And yeah, I've had all kinds of stuff done. I think that my doctor, though, goes pretty, like, he doesn't go crazy with it. He won't let me go crazy with it. So I guess that's good and bad. Because I'm like, I probably don't look like I've had that much surgery, but I have. But I just enjoy it. I enjoy the whole experience of it. It's like you want something, you want to fix something, you make an appointment, they knock you out, you go to sleep, you wake up with it fixed. I don't know. And then it just gives you a boost of confidence and it's like a rush. So,
And I think it's important for people to really understand it's not so much because some people will say it's a cheat and that's not fair and it's altering, but I've had constructive surgery on my nose. Now it looked fine. It was great outwardly, but I took a mean elbow to the face. I want to say
ooh,
when I was still in college. So I'm talking over a decade. I can't breathe right out my nose, and it does make a difference. So I remember very specifically that a leave that I felt like, okay, this is going to get fixed. And then after it was fixed and then seeing the results, it's like, oh, it looks a little better. It's a little straighter. It's something that's a little bit more than just like, oh, I want to do it. It's very much personal of like, hey, I can see visibly the alteration. Now, the thing about your doctor is, girl, we can't notice all that plastic surgery. So he's doing it right. That's how it's supposed to be. We're making it work. But it does get to a point where it can be scary. I think of Ava Devine where she talks about the complications she had from her breast surgeries and modifying the back end as well. And you yourself also went through something. You had a blood clot, you had a DVT that went to your lung, and it's just a blessing that you're still with us. But when you're faced with something like that, you always hear about it being a possible complication, but when it happens, the reality is so much scarier, especially in the moment, even if you're able to think and clearly process the steps to it. I just wanted to know what had happened for you to find that out. Was it as scary as I would have reacted to it? Where were you in that state of mind? And how were you still able to go, you know what, it happened, we're going to move on and then continue to do the surgeries?
I really thought I was gonna die when I had the like first I got a DVT, which is a blood clot in your leg. And then I got that taken care of. And I thought that would be the end of it. That came from after my BBL surgery, which didn't take. So not only did I pay money and I got a blood clot, but I didn't even get anything out of it really. But then I had I don't know if it's from that or if it's just a coincidence, but I had to get my breast redone because I had capsular contracture. And so after when I was recovering from that, I got a pulmonary embolism, actually several pulmonary embolisms in my lungs, and they took care of that. And then one day, I also got like randomly one day pulmonary embolisms, but I think that it's because I wasn't like as active as I am now. So I'm just taking all the steps that I can to like be as healthy as I can be. And I actually have to get surgery because I have a thyroid issue, which is why my eyes are like two different sizes right now. But um, I have to get my thyroid removed. And so I'm kind of nervous about like if anything will happen. So with this one, since it's like a necessary surgery, I'm going to see how I recover from that. If there's any complications, then obviously I won't go through with like another plastic surgery because that would be crazy. But if it goes well, I might consider. I mean, I really do want to do more, but we'll see.
How long did it take you to feel like yourself again after that? I talked to Karen Fisher about when she had her brain surgery. So she had a little complication. It turned out not to be a tumor, but what was there still had to be removed, and it was very noticeable. The way she was had changed, the way she was talking, moved, etc. And it took her a long time to get back to feeling like she was 100%. Your recovery was relatively much quicker, but it was also a little bit more dramatic and drastic considering circumstances. When did you feel like yourself again and be like, okay, I can go about my business as usual?
Yeah, it's definitely not brain tumor. That's pretty serious. I probably took like 3 months off, something like that. Um, I mean, right now I probably should be taking time off, but I don't know. It's boring. Like I love what I do, and like I just want to keep going. Like I really am excited about my feature coming up. I leave Wednesday for it, and I just want to like be out there and have fun and make a little money and see my fans. So that's what keeps me going.
And that'd be Sacramento Gold's Club at Centerfolds, I believe, October
Yeah.
1st. And I being from New Jersey, being a Philadelphia guy, I gotta ask you about your experiences over there. I know you have some really good stories in Tampa. Tampa is one of the hot grounds for strip clubs, and I think Tampa's third in most strip clubs in the nation. But what were the experiences in Tampa, Philadelphia, New Jersey? How does the East Coast compare to the West Coast and like the Vegas and the Hustler Club over there and etc.?
So Philadelphia, it's like, or I'm sorry, Pittsburgh. Two different places. I danced at Rick's Cabaret, and then I danced at Cheerleaders. And Rick's was like people were throwing money on stage and tipping, and it was like crazy. At Cheerleaders, though, it was so bizarre. I've never seen this in my life. Um, so the stage is like there's like a thing in between this, like a big gap between the stage and where people are seated. Like I'm talking big gap, like a whole bar is in between even. And people ball up the money and they like throw it on stage in little balls. I was getting pissed because I thought people were like being assholes. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I realized, oh, that's like how they tip because of the stage, like the way that it is. So that was crazy. But Tampa, I mean, Tampa is just full of clubs. So I think it's not as good, maybe, like it's not as good money because it's just so oversaturated. There's just so many clubs out there, especially, I mean, in Florida in general. But Vegas, I mean, of course, is a fun time. I think the most money that I've made on stage, though, was Fargo the other week when I was in Fargo, North Dakota, of all places. Like I didn't even I've never been there. I didn't know what to expect. And it was so much fun. And people were just like crazy throwing money. And yeah, I made a lot in Fargo of all places. So you never know what you're getting into, I guess.
But it keeps it fun. You're
Yeah.
living the life of a rock star and doing it on your terms. You know, you mentioned that you do like gardening. That's something that you picked up during the pandemic. And you also got into yoga, Reiki, crystals. I was curious when it comes to that type of spirituality, you know, the caring for something else other than like a person or a child, caring for a pet, caring for plants. It kind of, you know, gives that good energy back. I wanted to know what your experience was like with the Reiki and the yoga and all that, because that's a different level of meditation that I've touched on, but I never really learned what was centering.
It's so funny that you brought that up because I was going through a weird time in my life when like that all went down. I mean, I it was kind of a phase that I kind of am not in anymore. But it was now looking back on it. I mean, I got really into it. Looking back on it, I think I think what I liked about it was that you can place like meaning on like the crystals, for example. Like there's like so much involved, like the saging and crystals, like charging them in the moonlight and all this. Like it's kind of I guess like setting your intentions and like placing meaning on things that maybe don't actually. I mean, now that I'm looking back, I hope this doesn't piss anybody off because this is, I don't know, maybe offensive, but like it's like putting meaning on something that really doesn't have meaning. I mean, it's like rocks or whatever. But I really was like getting all into it and charging my little crystals in the moonlight. And I went to a I did a Reiki session and learned which chakra I need to work on to move to the next one and all that. But it was just something that helped me get through something that I was going through at the time. So I mean that's what it's there for, I think. And uh, I don't really practice it anymore. I do the yoga. I like love yoga and I do like meditating, but I'm not doing the crystals stuff anymore.
It sounds like it was all bullshit, and I need to stop
I'm not
supporting and
saying
coke.
that.
That's what I heard. I heard it's
But yes.
bullshit. It's a rock. The chakra's fine, but the rock shit, no, we're not charging nothing. So
I was listening to what is it? These songs, aural beats or something on YouTube, like over and over. Like yeah, I was going through it.
what has always been the defining factor for you to get past it? Like you said, you went through that one thing we're both aware of that we're not going to mention. There's been other things with like the Gino and people, and you almost died, but there's always a reason to keep fighting. And sometimes it's easy as can be. Some people place it on a person and say, I got to keep fighting for a family member, but then other times they have to pull a James Bond and say it's like, no, not for you, for me. I wanted to know if there's ever been a time where you kind of like, okay, this is what I'm gonna center my focus on. So no matter what happens, I'm gonna keep going.
um I don't know. It just you have to keep going. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. There's not, I mean, there's definitely like people that are important to me that help me get through tough times though. And I'm serious, like the all that like crystals and the Reiki and stuff like that, that did really get me through a tough time. And uh yeah, just moving on. I don't know.
Your story sounds so much like a lot of the people I know that grew up in poverty, and my parents don't ever have an answer. They've always had a home, but they do, poor. We're on our own, but
Yeah.
Even to this day, my mom goes like, I don't know. I don't know what my drive was. I don't know where it came from. I just had this will to survive. And I think you've exemplified that with the way you've lived your life. I always end these with the most important question. What's the best piece of advice someone has ever given you? Sometimes people take us to the side and say the dumbest, weirdest thing you could ever think of. Is the fucking you're getting worth the fucking you're giving? Because this is looking crazy right now versus, hey, I want to sit you down. This is gonna sound stupid. Brush your teeth. It sounds dumb, but this is why it matters because you know the gums are connected and it goes to the heart, and then you'll have a heart attack, etc. Like Chris did, whatever. So, was there a time or was there advice that you've heard that every now and again, just kind of like the last question, you always think about, like, okay, you know what, I need to recenter myself, get back to it.
I did not know that about the teeth.
Oh yeah, Mira, you're going your oral health is crazy connected to your blood pressure, your heart. It can mess you up. I did not know this, but that was one not the one I quote, but that was one of the ones I got when I was a kid. I had an Uncle Sam. He wasn't an uncle, he was more of like a grandfather figure. But he was a smoker, lost his teeth, and he was like, "Man, I'm telling you, brush your teeth."
Damn.
I mean, that's
I'm
what.
about to start telling people about that.
You know what? Fact check us though. Don't just take what I said right.
Interesting. That's like the thyroid. Like I never knew the thyroid is in charge of so many things until there was something wrong with my thyroid. And then I'm like, oh shit. uh anyway, so my this is like so stupid, but the first like the only thing that I'm thinking of, like there's so many like more profound things than this, like so much more profound, but this is just like what I have on my mind right now is just the like Nike slogan, just do it, is like, yeah, just fucking do it. Like no matter what, like when I'm nervous about feature, like when I was in North Dakota, I didn't know what to expect or anything. I showed up and there was a bunch of people there. I don't know, you know, when you're featuring, you go to club to club to club, you don't know what to expect. If the pole, can I climb the pole, or is the pole like hard to climb? Is the stage like up high? Is it down low? Is it like there's so many different things that you don't get to like practice beforehand, and it's just like kind of terrifying. But I just tell myself like just fucking do it. Like just get up there, get it over with, get your nerves out, and you'll be great. And the same thing with like just show up, you know, like just if you have something to do that you're not looking forward to, like just get it out of the way, just get it done.
Perfect puns intended, and it got the point across. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Linzee Ryder. I said it right this time. I made it a point with two E's. You can check her out on Instagram, Linzee Ryder Backup. That is literally how it is, because that's her backup, because she's done it so many times. She's had to restart a bunch because, you know, they be poaching out on Instagram for no reason, but Britney Spears can be naked. So either way, Linzee Ryder XXX on X, technically, what I would refer to Twitter. You can get her on Minx, Linze dash Ryder. So make sure Minx dash Linzee, double E dash Ryder, and then her website, linzeeryder.com. Don't forget, you can check her out at New Jersey's Exotica, October 24th. And she's going to be performing in Sacramento at the Gold Club's Centerfolds, October 1st. Mademoiselle, thank you so much for your time and patience. Really, really appreciate your conversation this evening.
Thank you so much.
And everybody else, be smart, be mindful, rock on. Remember the two E's. Ninja out.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. Oh, your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.